Welcome. All right, I don't even know if I'm going to call this episode 38. This is my first time doing this. I got stood up ×2 today. Jet is on another date, I think, and Stark's got, who knows what Stark's doing. Actually, he's doing like media day. He's big time now, so shout out to Stark. I'm going to run through this really quick. I wanted to get something out. I had too many thoughts in my head, and I needed to get them off my chest. So we are, as I'm recording this, as you're listening to this, trade deadline is over. As I'm recording this, there's about 10 minutes left in the deadline. I'm not expecting anything to happen for the Detroit Lions, and I'm going to get to my thoughts on that in a second. But just to recap, what a wild day. Sauce Gardner goes to Indy for 2 first-round picks as well as A.D. Mitchell. The Jets also trade Quinnen Williams to the Cowboys for a second, a first, and Mozzie Smith. Quick note on that. The Cowboys flipped Micah Parsons into a first-round pick, Quinnen Williams, and Kenny Clark. That's not a bad haul. I actually can't believe I'm saying that, but that's not a bad haul by Jerry Jones. So, impressive. The Eagles traded for Jalen Phillips. That was yesterday. Pisses me off. They also go out and get Jair Alexander. Howie Roseman always finds a way to make something happen at the deadline. The Bears add an edge. Nothing big there. No NFC North teams really did anything of substance. And then the other big move would be Shaheed going to Seattle. So they get a little bit of wide receiver help on top of Kupp in JSN, but Kupp's been injured. Again, we sit here, a couple minutes left in the trade deadline. I don't expect the Lions to do anything. And listen, last year they went out and they got Za'Darius, which wasn't really that big of a splash move. They needed to do it with Hutch being down. But I wasn't that upset last year. I wasn't that upset 2 years ago when they ultimately went to the NFC Championship game and stood pat at the deadline. I'm pissed this year. I feel different this year. I don't understand the thought process. And I've talked about this on our show before where there's a cycle. There's a cycle of NFL teams. And this is really in any sport where you're going to go through a rebuilding phase, and then you're going to build up, you're going to be a contender, and then there's going to be a time where you have to tear it all down and rebuild again. And Brad Holmes was general manager, executive of the year in the rebuilding years of the Lions, where he was not making moves at the trade deadline, was not making splash plays in free agency, but what he was doing is drafting at a really high level, developing those players, and using draft capital to move up in the draft and get players that are under team control for 4 or 5 seasons. Where my frustration comes in with Brad Holmes now is you rebuilt this team so well, that you have signed the entire core of this team to extensions. And we're at the point now with this Lions roster where you're going to be picking at the back half of these drafts anyway, because we expect you to make the playoffs and make deep runs in the playoffs. You also are at the point where you're a few pieces away from a Super Bowl. So we've hit the point in the cycle where I don't want to say F them picks like what the Rams did a couple years ago, but kind of F them picks. We should be in the market for rental players that can help us get over the hump and get to a Super Bowl. And I don't understand the thought process here of not making a move when Philly goes out and, like they do every single year, whether it be free agency, whether it be in the draft, or whether it be at the trade deadline, they go out, they make a splash, they improve their roster. The Lions, we're now at 3 minutes. The Lions are 3 minutes away from standing pat and doing nothing to improve their roster where you need offensive line depth. You need another edge rusher. I don't want to hear the whole Lions are, what are they, top 3 in the league in sacks? Well, yeah, because you're having to blitz. You're having to bring 5 or 6, and I don't think that's sustainable for the Lions. to make the run that they want to make and get to the Super Bowl. So I'm really frustrated, and I know my thoughts are all over the place, but I'm really frustrated when I see the Eagles go out and get Jalen Phillips for a third-round pick. We didn't have a third-round pick to go get Jalen Phillips because we traded 2 of them to move up in the draft and get Isaac Tesla. I like Isaac Tesla. I think he's going to be a fine player. I think he could be really good in the NFL. But the reality of the situation is you've got Amon-Ra, and you locked him up long-term. You've got J-Mo, and we locked him up long-term. You have Sam Laporta, who's going to be due for an extension, and rumors are he's going to get his extension. Where, in what reality, does Isaac Tesla warrant 2 third-round picks to move up, get him in the draft, and now we're sitting here at the trade deadline, and we don't have the ammo to go out and get some edge rush help, maybe some depth at offensive line, maybe some depth in the secondary, where you've got the Legion of Whom having to step up from the practice squad. I mean, it is beyond frustrating. Brad Holmes has done an amazing job building this roster, and I love the job that he's done in building the roster. I can't stand, what is it with Detroit general managers being scared to make that bold move that gets you over the hump? If you trade a third, if you have a third and you trade a third for Jalen Phillips, or the rumor is Jermaine Johnson's on the block for a second rounder, if you at least take the leap and make that trade, and let's say it doesn't work out, I don't know what the rest of Detroit thinks, but I know what I think. I'm not going to kill you. You took your shot. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. But you made a bold move and you tried to improve this roster. If you added Johnson, it would improve this roster, I promise you. And the cost would be a second rounder. But again, Brad's not going to do it. And let me look up at the screen here how much time we got left. Yeah, we got a minute left. This thing's done. So just wrapping this up, a wild trade deadline. I think, I don't know if this is going to shock you guys, I think the Jets are a big winner. They needed to tear that down and start over, and they've got the draft capital to do that now and kind of model what Detroit did in their rebuild. So, I mean, shout out to the Jets. I think they had a great deadline, stacking draft capital. And then shout out to the Cowboys. I hate that they come to Detroit in a couple weeks, and you now have a interior defensive line of Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and then you added Logan Wilson at the linebacker spot. And then the Colts did what the Lions refused to do. They went all in. They traded 2 firsts for Sauce Gardner at a position of need for them. You get a lockdown corner under contract for the next 4 years in Indy. I think both sides are going to be happy with that trade. So yeah, I just extremely frustrated with the Lions. This is 3 years in a row now where they don't make much noise at the trade deadline. And in a race for the NFC North, in a race for the NFC, the margins are so thin right now. And you're watching all of the contenders around you make moves and improve their roster. And the Lions have some very clear holes, and they stood pat and did nothing. So we'll see how it plays out, but I can tell you I'm not happy. I am not happy because I think there were moves to be made. I really do. And the Lions do nothing to improve their roster.
You what?
Clicked the wrong one, but all right. We're going to talk a little bit.
Call me asparagus.
About the Lions-Vikings this weekend. I'm going to recap that. And this is going to be a super short episode. I know you guys usually come here to watch Stark or Jet, so I apologize that it's just me today. But I do want to talk a little bit about the state of this Lions team and what we all watched on Sunday. I've taken a couple days. If I would have recorded this right after the game Sunday, I would have been fired up, pissed off. I'm still pissed off, but trying to think a little bit more clear about the whole scenario. And what is so mind-boggling to me is that this is starting to become a trend with the Lions that I really don't like and is really uncharacteristic of Dan Campbell, which is coming off of a bye week, coming off of rest. The team looks unprepared. They lack juice. They look groggy. They don't play well. They make mistakes. First game of the season, we saw it in Green Bay. Like, they were not ready to go. The playoff game last year, you got that first round bye, and then you play in the divisional round. That team was not ready to go. Too many mental mistakes, not ready to play. And then now we see at home, off a bye, against a decent roster in Minnesota, but a team that you've dominated for the last 2-3 years. Jared Goff has diced up Brian Flores historically in his career, and playing J.J. McCarthy in his third ever start. I'm a Michigan fan. I like J.J. McCarthy when he's at Michigan. He is not a quarterback that should step into Ford Field and beat you off a bye on the road. That was one of the worst performances I can remember in the Dan Campbell era, and that includes going back to Dan Campbell's first year. I mean, that was bad. 10 penalties for 80 yards. When do we see a Dan Campbell team do that? The offensive line is a real problem, guys. And part of the reason I'm so upset about this trade deadline. We lose Mahogany for probably the rest of the season. They're saying maybe end of December or the playoffs he could come back. But, guys, he broke a bone. I don't know. Taylor Decker banged up. Penei Sewell banged up in that game. Tate Ratledge left the game for about half a quarter, ended up coming back. So injuries to that offensive line, which already has struggled for the majority of this season. And I don't put much of that loss on the defense. I know they gave up 27 points, but guys, the 3 touchdowns they scored were on 3 short fields, whether it be special teams or the offense turning the ball over. I don't put too much of that on the defense. I couldn't believe what I was watching on Sunday. And it felt like I transported back to 2010, 2009, those Lions teams where you just want to pull your hair out watching it. And I am never going to be the guy that uses the SOL, same old Lions term. That's not what I'm saying, but it was a mind-boggling performance. It was bad. And I think it comes down to the offense. I'm going to be the first guy to say it. Sunday was the first time where I started missing Ben Johnson. And that's not to say that John Morton can't turn it around, but this offense it's too predictable. They're not getting enough push up front. They're not running the ball effectively. Jared Goff is, we talk about it all the time on this podcast. He is a top 10 quarterback in the league, but he's not mobile. He's not going to get out of the pocket and make plays. He has to have time, and the offensive line is not doing that. The pass pro is atrocious. Jahmyr Gibbs had a rough day in pass pro, which is why we saw a ton of David Montgomery. And way too many 2 tight end sets. I don't like that. Why did you use all that capital, again, to move up and get Isaac Tesla if he's not going to see the field, if you're going to use Brock Wright more than you're going to use Isaac Tesla? J-Mo got going a little bit. Amon-Ra wasn't really there. I mean, the offense just can't get a rhythm. And we've been talking about it on the podcast for a while now. What is going on with this offense? Is it play calling? Is it the line? Is it Jared Goff? I think it's a mix of a lot of different things. And the reality of Sunday was Brian Flores made you look silly. And that was shocking. I did not see that coming. Now, I want to bring up a stat. I'm going to pull this up on my phone. I got it here ready for you guys. This is wild to me. The worst rush success rates in the Dan Campbell era of Detroit Lions football, okay? So in the Dan Campbell era, as he's the coach, the lowest rush success rates for a Detroit Lions team. Number 1 is a game in 2021 where the Lions went, what'd they do? 4-11-1, 5-11-1, something like that. The next 3 are 2025. 2, 3, and 4 are from 2025 this season. I think that's an indictment on John Morton. I think that's an indictment on this offensive line. We knew they were going to have to work through some things, some young players in the middle of that line. But, guys, my attitude can change, but right now I am feeling very pessimistic on this Lions team. They have a lot of work to do. They have a lot to get figured out if they're going to make a stretch run here, attempt to win the North, and then make some noise in the playoffs. They've got to get it figured out. And I felt like they missed an opportunity today to improve the roster when the teams around them improved their rosters. And I'm mainly talking Philly. But why is it – I'm just jealous of the Philly fans. Why is it every single year Philly finds a way to improve the roster at the deadline and Brad Holmes and the Lions decide to stand pat? So, listen, all hope is not lost. I still really like this Lions roster, but this offense has got to get it figured out. And if there was ever a time to get it figured out, straighten some things out, iron some things out, it's on the road next week at Washington. And you've got an opportunity. I mean, you got very, very lucky. No Jaden Daniels. Marshawn Lattimore tears his ACL, so he is out. This is a bad roster in Washington, and I think the players have quit a little bit over there. So this is a perfect get right spot for them before they go into Sunday Night Football in Philly. But the panic meter's pretty high for me right now. I want to know what you guys think. Scale of 1 to 10, leave it in the comments. What is your panic level for this Detroit Lions team right now? What's your confidence level that they can right this ship and potentially win the North for the third straight year and host the playoff game? But listen, I still have a ton of confidence in Dan Campbell. I really, really do. I believe in this roster. This is still a top 5 roster in the NFL. But they have a lot of issues that they got to get figured out, and they need to do it very quickly because you get a little bit of a free square in this Washington game, and then nothing's easy the rest of the way. You do get the Giants at home. You get the Cowboys at home. That game's a little scarier today than it was yesterday. You get the Steelers at home. That is not a gimme. And then other than that, it's a gauntlet the rest of the way. So we'll see what happens. I know this is pessimistic, Adam. We're usually very optimistic about the Lions on this pod, but I'm frustrated. I don't get it. We'll see what happens, guys. Sitting at 5-3, second place in the North. I expect the Lions to win this weekend. Maybe the Eagles beat the Pack on the road, and then the Lions are sitting in the driver's seat for the NFC North, and things are looking a little bit better. So this weekend's going to be really, really big. We'll be back later this week with our normal podcast. We'll make the picks. We'll preview the game in Washington, and we'll get Jet and Stark's thoughts on no moves at the trade deadline. But appreciate you guys. Want to make this super quick. Go Lions, but I'm pissed.